The three of us are back together today, and we look at a listener question. What does the week of a pastor look like? Welcome to the To Be the Church podcast, where we explore what it looks like to truly be the church in today's culture. I'm Tyler. Ben is here. Andrew.
What's up?
I think it's been like a month or month and a half since the three of us have podcasted together.
Yeah.
Yep.
I missed you guys.
We're so busy these days.
Yeah, Ben's out here having babies, you know?
Yep.
I mean, kind of. Your wife is.
3-week-old, man. Oh, 4, 3?
3.5.
When this airs, 4.
Yeah. How's Kevin
Sunday. doing? Owen is doing great. Yeah. He longest stretch last night of sleep, I think it was like 5 hours.
Did you just say Kevin?
Yeah. Kevin.
Didn't Marty want to name him Kevin
Marty
because of
wanted to
Minions?
name him Kevin.
Kevin!
Yeah. Our whole family called him Kevin until he was born, and we actually had to give him a real name.
And I'm keeping it going.
Yeah.
He's Kevin to me.
That was the inside level to that joke was epic. I love
Yes.
that. Okay. Anyway, we call him Kevin.
Kevin
in our
in
house
our
just because
hearts.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when I texted you, I congratulated you on Kevin being born.
So the listener knows Marty, his 7-year-old brother, when he was in utero, wanted to name him Kevin, and that's
Yeah.
the.
Is it because
that's
of
the
Minions,
shtick.
though?
Yeah, I think we watched Home Alone
Yeah.
last
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's they told his cousins, and his cousin James tomorrow was like, "What are you gonna name him?" And he's like, "Kevin. You want to go play Legos?" And they just it was just like so matter of fact, like, okay,
Dude,
Yeah.
you got to be careful. My aunt, my dad's sister, her name is Linda. But when she was born, my dad looked at her and he was like, she has big ears, like Mickey Mouse. To this day, she's in her 60s. She is Mickey to everyone.
Oh man.
Like yes, like her name on Facebook, Mickey Jensen.
Wow.
But because my dad thought she had big ears,
Love it, dude.
you got to be careful. Otherwise,
I mean,
You
you
know.
can be Kevin, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
yeah. All right, so we'll get to a question in a minute, but first, never mind. Let's get to the question. All right, this came in from a listener.
You
I
wanted to rub something in about the Niners or something?
No.
Didn't you?
No,
No,
I wouldn't.
I thought
do
he
that.
was going to affirm you. It looked
No.
like an affirming.
No, it wasn't
face.
that
No,
either.
definitely not that.
No, it was neither. All right. Okay, so this came from a listener. So I have a question. Not sure if it'd make a good podcast, but I figured I'd throw it out there. I've been going to NGC East Vancouver for almost a year. My husband and I listen to this podcast every day. I work in the secular world as a high school teacher. Prayers welcomed. So I work a fairly traditional job Monday through Friday. I've always wondered what the work week looks like for a church staff. What does the work week look like for a lead pastor? Does each week look fairly similar with scheduled meetings? Do you have certain days or times dedicated for sermon prep? What do you guys like to do with your days off? So a few questions in there.
I love that.
But,
That's a good question, dude.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I like it. It looks different for everyone. So, yeah, I think as a lead pastor, your work week looks different than mine. We could talk about that, and what that
Yeah.
looks like. And as a church staff member, Ty, you're probably the most authoritative on that, since you not only are a church staff member, but you are also one who oversees many, many church staff members. Wow. What a great question.
Yeah.
Thanks for that question, podcast listener. That will make a good episode.
All right. So let's start.
We really got our rhythm after being out of the saddle
Yeah.
together for so long.
All right. So let's start with you guys. What does the work week look like for lead pastors? Ben, let's start with you.
Yeah. So currently, but this is going to change after the new year. I currently take Mondays and Saturdays off. I'm going to switch it to Friday, Saturday, so
Yeah,
I
you
can
are.
be united with my brothers who are local lead pastors.
Disunited with me.
I
Dude,
know.
shut it, Ty. Shut it.
But yeah, so I mean, just the real basic work week for me is I usually reserve my mornings for studying, so sermon prep. And then the afternoons I'm doing meetings, administrative work, reading for other things that are not sermon related, doing podcasting, those sorts of things. So, and that's really intentional because I definitely am most productive when it comes to like studying and being kind of locked in mentally in the mornings. If I try to study in depth, like in the afternoons, I get easily distracted, kind of sleepy. So that's loosely how Tuesday through Friday go. And then each morning of my sermon prep, I have each day a goal for the sermon prep of what I'm trying to do. So Tuesdays, I'm trying to read through the text at least 5 times, and I'm printing it off and making all sorts of observations really just studying the text with nothing else but the text. Wednesday, I'm coming up with my my main idea, my homiletical idea, my outline, my intro. Thursday, I'm reading as many commentaries as I can on the text, and then Friday, I'm writing the sermon. So I go through that process, and then come back in early Sunday morning, try to internalize it, and then preach it. So, yeah, that's kind of the basic schedule for me.
Yeah, you said that afternoons meetings are a big part of that. What are the types of meetings that you have as a lead pastor of Campus Washougal?
I meet with Max every week. We will debrief the previous Sunday, just how the gathering went, and then we'll talk about. We have kind of an ongoing list of just things coming up, things we need to connect on. He usually has a lot of things he wants to run by me before he implements them. So I meet with him every week. I meet with our deacons fairly regularly. And then people on my shepherding list, if they're able to work-wise, I'm trying to set up coffees and lunches and different things with people that I'm shepherding just to connect and pray with them and see how they're doing. Yeah, and then sometimes I'm over here doing podcasting or meeting with one of you guys. Yeah.
So there's a number of hats that you wear. I mean, you're the local lead pastor at Campus Washougal. So you're pastoring a church of a couple hundred people, and you've got a staff of a few people, and you've got a number of deacons and leaders and elders and others. You're doing elder training, those kind of things. So there's another aspect to your schedule. That's like your daytime schedule, effectively, right? Where you've got your kind of Tuesday through Friday. Sundays is obviously a different animal, and that's a part of that pastoral schedule. That's a massive part of it. But then you've got the evening type things that you're doing, because you sit on the leadership council, right? So this family of churches, like you're a part of that leadership council, which is the governing group of elders of the 5 churches. So there's requirements on that. There's that third Tuesday elder meeting that's like from basically 4:30 to whenever it gets done, right? With the full council of elders, and you're meeting with your campus elders in that. You're meeting with the full council of elders in that.
Mm-hmm.
That's every month. You've got elder training stuff you're doing, cohorts that you're meeting with. Those, I'm guessing those are probably evenings, at times,
No, we've been doing those Sunday after church,
Okay.
A lunch, and then meeting with 5 guys who we're reading through books together that are required for elders, and just helping them discern a call to eldership.
Yeah.
So those are happening monthly. We have a community group that meets every other Sunday after church for a couple hours. There's a men's Bible study that I lead on Thursday mornings at 6:30 a.m. where we're going through the text that's going to be preached. Just doing inductive Bible study with a couple guys. So there's ministry is interesting in that it's an on-call sort of role in a sense,
Yeah.
right, where you need to be available and different things. But there also is a lot of flexibility with it. It's not a clock in, clock out sort of thing. I think especially kind of for a lead pastor, just because the work's never done, the to-do list is long, but there's a lot of flexibility. Like I'm not having to put in a specific amount of office hours or different things. And so there are some days and weeks where I'm working a lot. And then there are some days where, I can get everything done and have a little bit extra time with the family or different things. So it's a blessing, but also a burden, right? The flexibility, but also there's going to be times when someone needs me, for an emergency, or there's going to be evenings out or retreats or trips and different things. So yeah.
I'll say this. There was a season where I felt really guilty about the days that you just mentioned, where it's like, oh, like I could actually like be done, and just like go home or whatever. But then I came to realize, like, for every like shorter 6-hour day, there's at least 1 10, you know what I mean? And it's like, I encourage the team that I oversee is like lean in to the seasons where you're able to rest. Because the season is around the corner where you're going to be working extra and, you're going to be taxed. And so, anyway, that just came to mind when you said that.
Yeah. And like the things, even if I go home early, there's a sense, especially as a preacher, where there's going to be little pockets where the family doesn't need me and I'm pulling up a commentary on my phone because I'm still kind of wrestling through the passage, or I'm praying all the time for our people as they come to mind, or people in the church are texting me in an evening, and I obviously have good boundaries and don't always respond, but if it's someone who's asking for prayer, like I'm engaging them. So it's like there's a sense even when you go home in ministry where it's like you're still working, like you're still on call, and so yeah, it's not okay, I put in my 8 hours and I clock out and then I'm done. It's like, yeah, it's a different world.
And Sundays are super unique days, obviously. So, and your Sunday schedule effectively, and you talked a little bit about the Sunday afternoons, meeting with those dudes and the community group type things.
Yeah, Sunday I like to get started real early. I'll try to be getting out of the house probably around 6. And then I'll either go to a coffee shop or go to the church and with my notes print it off, and I'll just be reading through them as many times as possible, marking them up, just kind of getting them ready to preach, be praying through them. And I like to have plenty of time to do that. I don't ever want to feel rushed, you know? Yeah. And then usually around 8:30, you and I will hop on a call and pray because you're having a gathering at 9. Mine's not till 10:30. And then after that, I'll get to the building, kind of get situated, continue to pray, all those things, do mic checks, pray with my elders at 10:15, and then our gathering's at 10:30.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you didn't mention stuff that, well, and there's certain things, and two, I think it'd be helpful as you even talk through your schedule, like when you're talking about studying, you're certainly doing sermon prep studying, but there's kind of 4 buckets that you're like operate, or 4 major pillars of your job description as a lead, where like preaching, obviously big, the primary preacher and developer of preachers at your campus or at your local church. And then you've got leadership development. You're developing elders, you're leading the elders, deacons, those things, developing deacons, staff members you're overseeing, vision. So kind of the annual vision of the church, the goals that you guys are accomplishing, and overseeing those for your staff. So there's like staff management that comes into that. And then that 4th one being culture, kind of the culture of the church, the DNA, the doctrine, those deals. So when you're studying, there are also those things where you're studying through the vision and you're doing that stuff, and you're praying through where are we going this next season, and
I have different lists of books that I'm always trying to read at least one in. So I have one that like growing as a preacher, growing as a pastor leader, growing in piety. I had to keep all P's.
Such a Baptist.
Growing as a parent. Like, so, but like, I'm trying to like read a book on pastoring, read a book on preaching, doing all these things. I want to continue to sharpen myself theologically. So I'm reading books on doctrine. Yeah. So all of that's part of my work, like I'm trying to be someone that can handle the word, So.
Doctrine is a D, so it doesn't count.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, dude, Ty Guy, let's pivot to you because I'm a lead, and so okay. We'll go lead pastor, and it's even good because lead pastor at a smaller size dynamic, but again, you're part of the family of churches, so there's other things you're involved with there as well. Versus like you can speak to it like on the prototypical staff member, maybe that's not preaching every week, but is doing all the other work of ministry or whatever.
Yeah, my role is interesting right now because I'm one of the few ministry people who are not tied to a specific cyclical schedule. So like, I'm not a Sunday preacher at Weekly. I'm not in youth. I'm not Wednesday night. I'm not the music guy who's doing rehearsals on Thursdays and leading on Sundays. That my role right now is just overseeing a bunch of different staff members. And so I directly oversee 9 staff members, and then indirectly through those 9 staff members oversee 10 more. And so like a lot of my day is spent helping equip the people who are doing the work. And so the way I structure my day, I'm Tuesday through Friday and Sunday. So I take Mondays and Saturdays off. And but like my mornings, like I reserve my mornings for creative work and like projects that I'm working on. And so because of the nature of my role, I don't even show up here for those things. Like in the mornings, I'm not here. Like I'm usually at a coffee shop or sometimes at home, but usually at a coffee shop. And I'm working on the stuff that I have to get done. And then at some point in the morning or late morning, I'll pivot to here and I have one-on-ones. And so I'm doing one-on-one meetings with those 9 staff members, so I have 20-ish of those a month, those one-on-one meetings. And then then, overseeing staff meetings and stuff like that as well. That's just East Vancouver. And then there's also the stuff that I'm currently helping with within the family of churches and the other 4. But I think like it's different than preaching, but for most of our staff, there is some sort of weekly rhythm. Like it's like, okay, Sunday comes every week or Wednesday comes every week. And there's some like goal that like they are leading up to weekly. And then most of those people also have like an annual rhythm where in the youth ministry, they got the summer camp and the winter conference where it's like there's twice a year that they're ramping up for these massive events that are literally 24-hour a day for a few days events within the midst of the weekly rhythm. And so a lot of being a church staff member is balancing the fact that Wednesday or Sunday or Thursday or whatever happens weekly, kind of keeping that weekly ministry going while also like looking toward bigger projects or annual projects or whatever that are taking taking a lot of time and energy and effort. And so that usually looks like both planning, volunteer, recruiting, engagement, development, stuff like that, the actual doing of whatever the job is, and then and growth too, like trying to figure out like, okay, how do I get from here? And we just had an episode with Jacob, our youth pastor. He's in that spot right now where he's like, all right, I'm new at this. How do I get to here in this, and so those are the types of things that the average staff member is working on every week. But my role is just a little different in that, like that cycle of weekly ministry, I'm out of that cycle on a regular basis, I guess, which is freeing in some ways, but it's also discombobulating when you've been doing it for years and you're like, I'm used to this like 7-day loop. So, and then you're out of that and you're like, wait, like this project I have to work on, it's like a 9-month project. But like, yeah. So anyway, that's
a really different job. Like your job in ministry is very unique. There are not many people that do that, and it has to do with size dynamic, both the size of East Vancouver, as well as obviously this whole family of churches with 5 churches of various sizes throughout the whole county that we're working to, lead and manage and develop and whatever else. But that's a unique job in ministry. I think like speaking at it from where kind of in thinking about this, question asker is a teacher, right? And so it's a gal, right? She said so in that schedule when you got the kind of Monday through Friday, and it's not a strict 9 to 5 obviously, but it's ish, and then you're doing during that time when you're executing the role, when you're working in the teaching role and you got the students there and whatever else, you're not able to work on the curriculum or on the bigger picture, right? And so those are the things you're doing probably in other times, right? And there's those in-service days that teachers do, or there's the earlier in the morning that they might get there to prep, and then the later in the afternoon that they might stay after the kids get done to do grading and to do whatever else is involved with that. So that's the kind of way I would like describe. And you hear it described this way. I don't know the first person that did this, but working in the church versus working on the church. And that's like the shift that's come in your role, Tyler, is like the working in the church, the like cycle of like Sundays always come in, and then I've got to get the team ready for Sunday, or I've got to prepare the teaching for that or whatever. That's working in the church. That's like working in it, versus when things get more complex, when you get more staff members and dynamics develop there, and you're trying to, or your church's doctrinal formation or whatever structures, policies that you may be putting in place on a local level, you're working on the church when you're doing that. When you're talking vision, you're working on the church, right? And so versus being with the people and managing them directly or teaching directly or doing that things, that's kind of in versus on. And so, my role, like, and dude, speaking back when I was like on a church staff at a larger church and coming into it right out of seminary and be a youth pastor, and it's like I had the things that were and like the church, I heard Northwest Gospel described this way recently, that there's churches that are high control, low accountability, right? Where there's kind of more micromanagement but less accountability because there's such strong control from the top down. And then there are churches that are low control, high accountability. And the person describing it this way was saying that Northwest Gospel, our culture that's been embedded here over the years, is a low control, high accountability culture, right? Where we're not micromanaging people. We set the vision, we set the goals, we have the things that we're pulling toward, equipping the saints to be the church, those kind of things. but we don't micromanage people in that. We just hold them accountable to high standards and things. So when I came up in a church environment like that was kind of lower control. I wasn't being micromanaged. I mean, when I first got hired as a youth pastor, my lead pastor told me, like, nobody's going to be looking over your shoulder if you're doing your job, honestly. And truly, the 5 years I was there, I never had like somebody looking over my shoulder of like, hey, office hours, what are you doing? And so even when I got here, kind of implementing that culture as a lead pastor of going, Ben, you mentioned the fact of like, there's not these strict office hours, and that's part of our culture. Not all churches are like that, but that's a part of that low control, high accountability culture where it's like, we know what we're pulling toward. And so getting the job done and how you're going to get to that, navigate to that is really, your gifting and who you are and whatever else. But nobody's going to be telling you, okay, you got to arrive at this time and then you better leave at this time, or you better wait to clock out at this time. That's a high control culture. We don't have that here. So, and I don't think ministry tends toward that. I think a ton of ministry, there's obviously your preparation and your content that you're developing and working on things as well. But there's also that people aspect. And like you even said, that flex that occurs when it's like crisis hits at different times, especially in a dynamic that you're in there, Ben, where it's like, when crisis hits and you're called in as a pastor to handle that, those are things unexpected and they happen at different times. And then, so there's going to be flex in your schedule as it relates to your family to kind of make up for that or whatever else. But so what my schedule when I first got into ministry, it was like weird. I was like, what do I do? What do I do with all my time here? And it was like build teams, and I had the weekly Wednesday that I had to pull toward and Sundays that I had to pull toward. But other than that, it was like, dude, what do I do with this time? And there's a couple ways that guys can go, and I see this in ministry all the time, and you can see this in guys' DNA, even when you like look at somebody who's been in ministry for a while, that who that person is will come out in those environments. And do they become someone who does just enough to get the job done, quote unquote, in terms of what their superiors are telling them, what those who are reporting to are telling them to do? Do they do just enough to do that, and then they get comfortable in that liberty and freedom, and they can get lazy, they can get, and not focusing, or do they go that other direction and there's a conviction to the way they work, and they just churn out those hours, and that also has its other aspects to it. But that latter was the way I was. Like when I was in youth ministry, I was putting in stupid hours. Like it was unhealthy, right? To where I was regularly working 80+ hour weeks, and my schedule was a mess. I was out like 4 or 5 nights a week regularly, and we didn't have kids at the time. But then once we started to have kids, and you get a family, and dynamics change, like you got to figure that thing out. And so I kind of had to figure out schedule stuff on the fly. And so fast forward now 20 years or whatever, and this is the way my schedule looks as lead pastor. I'm Sunday through Thursday. Friday, Saturday is the weekend. And so, Ben, like you, Sundays is a 5 a.m. I'm up at 5. I'm out of the house at 5:30. I'm here at the facility. I'm finishing up final touches on the sermon, prayer, development of that, those kind of deals. Just got to have a whole routine I'm going through. Preaching the 2 gatherings, getting out of the gatherings by 12:30. And then Sunday afternoon stuff, there's always stuff. It's a good time to meet with people. It's a good time to, connect with an elder in training who's going to be here or whatever. And so there's generally a Sunday afternoon commitment that's like right after church, lunch, and I'm usually done on a Sunday by, 3 o'clock, right? 3 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock at the latest. So that's a pretty full day. And then like you, Ben, and Tyler, you said this as well. And I heard somebody say it this way a while back. They said, study in the mornings, talk in the afternoons. And we're fresh in the morning, those kind of deals. And by the afternoon, we're a little bit cooked mentally. And so it's like that's a better time to be meet with people and kind of be energized in those meetings. So I tend to do that as well, to where the first part of my day, I'm starting early. I'm starting some days at I'm trying to get up early and have morning time with the family and those kind of things, but I'm into it by 7:30, 8 a.m. And then I'm churning through. Monday and Tuesday are more, rather than necessarily doing the study in the morning, talk in the afternoons, I kind of break my week up where Monday and Tuesday are content creation, heavy duty preparation, that kind of stuff. So I'm working on the sermons those days, but I'm also working on vision development, our guiding docs that we write, training materials, anything that relates to the vision, leadership development, culture, and preaching of the family of churches and of our local church here. I'm working on that stuff alongside the sermon Monday, Tuesday. Ton of content creation. I may late Tuesday or late Monday, depending on how quickly stuff goes, I may have a meetings through Zoom or whatever else, but I'm trying not to schedule meetings those 2 days. And then Wednesdays and Thursdays become packed meeting days for me. And so just even the last 2 days, and this is part of the family of churches kind of getting our feet under us, but I have 6 direct reports. Our 2 executive pastors, Tyler and Nathan, our 4 local lead pastors, including you, Ben. So those 6 direct reports I'm meeting with every month. And I even have kind of direct reports that aren't on our staff in terms of like our leadership council guys who I need to regularly meet with because they're representing their churches on their campuses. So I'll be all around the county meeting with leaders, connecting with them, and that's every Wednesday. There's a preaching team meeting where all 5 of our preachers come together, and I'll lead that. If I'm out, Ben, you'll lead that, and we meet for about an hour, basically 60 minutes, and we're talking through the text that all 5 of us are preaching that coming week at one of our churches. That's followed by like an hour to hour and a half lead meeting with all the lead pastors. That's the middle of the day Wednesday, and then I follow that with some one-on-one meetings, those things. So generally speaking, those days are my Mondays through Thursdays are 7:30, 8 a.m. to 5, and I try to disconnect by 5 o'clock every day. Sometimes it's 5:30, but home for dinner and then keep everything off during the evenings. So. And we have evening commitments, like you said, elder meeting, or there's different functions. Tonight we even have our elder and wife annual Christmas dinner that we're doing. And so all 3 of us with our wives will be there, as well as 25 elders and their wives. And so there's functions like that in ministry, obviously, and stuff like that you're going to and that you're a part of. And obviously with the 3 of us in the roles we're in, we're leading stuff like that at times. We're planning it and we're executing the job there. So, but yeah, I try to keep that super tight and scheduled, and I kind of have to with the things I'm juggling at this point. And yeah, that's the basic schedule. But I really, with a family at home and these things, to me, like finishing up by dinner time, and then keeping those most evenings clear with the family is super, super vital at our stage of life. And then Friday, Saturday, I'm completely out of the work stuff. And so that means for me, there's no Slack, there's no email, there's no like texting, there's no like jumping into work stuff for me on those 2 days because I'll lose my mind. And that's not good. So yeah, that's effectively the schedule. So it's super unpredictable. The work's never done. And but that's what it looks like.
I added up your numbers though. It's only 36 hours.
I know.
So why?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I didn't add.
Okay, so last part of this question, this is a good way to end it. What do you guys like to do with your days off? I know what you like to do. You like to run through Washougal. I see you running through Washougal all the time these days.
You do, Ben.
I'm trying to run. Yeah.
I honk at you and you don't respond, so I assume your music's too loud.
Well, that's not all you do. You usually yell at me or
get off the road.
Yeah. I feel like are more disciplined with like a good disconnecting, resting. I feel like almost on my off days right now, kind of overwhelmed with, I want time to like rest, recharge, but there's also like everything around the house that needs to be done, supporting my family. And so it's kind of like, I don't know, it's tough to balance. And then with the kids playing sports and stuff like this fall, every Saturday, football all day, driving around Clark County. So if I'm being completely honest, I don't feel like my days off are like super restful right now, but it's also season of life. We have a 3-week-old and 3 kids under 12 also. So I don't know.
Yeah. Ours are like, and over the years, dude, in your stages of life, I felt the same way. I think where we're at currently with a 17, 15, 12, and 9-year-olds at home, we kind of prep for Friday, Thursday night, and a lot of times we'll do some community type stuff Thursday night or whatever, but Friday's that kind of no phone Friday where we're just kind of, the whole family's disconnecting. we're either it's leftovers or like we're grabbing a pizza or doing a family dinner out or something like that. So like my wife also is not having to cook and do those things. So, and that's days, dude, we'll play video games with the kids or do puzzles or, you know, whatever. We try to not do house stuff that day either. And so we try to end the week like on Thursday night with like things fairly put together and put away, because it's not like a day we want to be doing chores either. So that's a day on the property at the house. It's trying to be a family day. We'll go out to a movie together as a family. We're, you know, so that's kind of that major family day. Do something there. And then Saturday, dude, I've got this new thing the last several months where all those like big chore projects or those lists, like we just write them down. And there's actually like an actual physical list that the girls will like write down stuff like my light's broken or different things. They'll like write it in the thing. And then Saturday I'm pumping out house stuff. And so, and the whole family's kind of on that, especially like starting Saturday morning, we'll have like a family meeting at 10 a.m., go through our schedule for the week that's upcoming. And then Saturday is like a chore day. And we're pumping through the house. We're getting stuff done. And the whole family is really on that page, and everybody's doing what they need to do. If girls are finishing homework or whatever, but it's not like this massive crazy work day, but it is a day where like I'm doing house projects or whatever else. But I used to do those things just on the weekends, and it was like there was no rest. So I've tried to like delineate that, with Friday being a day that's like unapologetic. We're all just kind of chilling, you know, and what's going to relax us and what's going to be disconnected from any sort of work type stuff. And then Saturday having it be a more productive day off, you know, and then dial into Sunday. What about you, Tag Guy?
Mondays are really intentional. So kids are at school,
Yeah.
drop the elementary kids off around 9. And then from like 9 to 2:30 is like the time where Katie and I just spend time together, like that, 5.5 hours, I guess. Cause she's working now again, now that our youngest is in kindergarten. And so Monday's her day off as well. And so, yeah, we like our typical rhythm is that we get out of the house, because being in the house can be like anxiety inducing if things aren't put together, right?
Yeah.
Or if you see the projects and stuff. And so we pick a coffee shop to go to for the entire morning, and we just sit, we'll talk, we'll make plans, but like half the time we're just sitting there reading or writing, just like, you know, just sitting across from each other doing that. And we usually pick the coffee shop based on where we want to eat lunch. And so we try to do lunch out together every Monday, and then just the two of us before we have to go pick up kids from school. And then, yeah, the rest of the weekend is is sports, like Saturday sports primarily. There's a little bit of like the rest of the weekend with Molly's basketball stuff, but like for the most part, it's like we have kids in sports. Like Saturday is usually filled with that. If their sports aren't going, mine are. And so I'll like go, you know, play pickleball, stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's kind of, yeah, we reserve Mondays, that like time when the kids are in school, because it's the time that both Katie and I are off, and then the kids are not with us. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's the only thing I don't like about homeschooling with little kids is like we don't get to send them to school and date. But once they get older, I know we can leave them at home and go do that stuff. So, I mean, we only reset the clock with having another baby, but that's okay. We'll get there. We were almost there. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the question. I was gonna make a joke about us, but I won't do that.
Why do you keep stopping
He
yourself?
keeps,
Hey,
he's
you
out
know
of
what?
rhythm, man. I don't know what's
No,
wrong with
I
that.
had vacation and my filter turned on, so I'm like, oh, I shouldn't say that. All right. Well, have a great week.